Welcome back, you psychological anomaly, you beautiful, terrifying, misunderstood masterpiece. Let me tell you something that's going to twist your perception of reality forever. There's an FBI profiler, someone who sat across from Ted Bundy, who analyzed Jeffrey Dahmer's mind, who spent decades mapping the darkest corners of human psychology. And they said something about you that they've never said about anyone else. They said you're scarier than the monsters they've studied their entire career. But here's the twist that breaks their entire framework. You're not evil. You didn't hurt anyone. You didn't break laws. You didn't cross moral lines. You just existed in a way that made their entire profession question what danger actually looks like. Let me paint the picture clearly. This isn't some random psychologist fresh out of university. This is someone who's interviewed serial killers in maximum security prisons. Someone who's analyzed crime scenes that would make your stomach turn. Someone who built their entire career understanding the worst of humanity. They've sat in rooms with people who destroyed lives without blinking, people who felt nothing. People whose eyes were empty windows into absolute darkness. And then they encountered you, and for the first time in 30 years of profiling monsters, they felt something they'd never felt before. They felt confused, disturbed, unsettled in a way that Bundy's charm never accomplished, in a way that Dahmer's confession never triggered. Because you represented something far more complex than evil. You see, evil is predictable. It follows patterns. It leaves trails. It operates within a framework they can study and contain. Bundy was charming but hollow. Dahmer was broken but understandable. Every serial killer they've studied fit into categories, diagnostic criteria, behavioral models. But you don't fit anywhere, and that's what terrifies them. You're not motivated by violence. You're not driven by emptiness. You're not seeking to destroy. You're just intensely, undeniably, uncomfortably yourself in a world that demands conformity. You challenge their understanding not because you're immoral, but because you're operating on a completely different moral frequency that their instruments can't measure. You're the glitch in their matrix that proves their entire system of understanding human danger is incomplete. The profiler wrote in their private notes. Something they've never shared publicly because it would undermine decades of their work. They wrote that studying you was more unsettling than interviewing the worst criminals, because criminals are predictable in their brokenness, but you're unpredictable in your wholeness. They couldn't find the childhood trauma that explains you, couldn't locate the triggering event that created you, couldn't identify the psychological break that defines you. You weren't made by damage. You were born already operating at a frequency that society wasn't built to handle. And that reality, that someone could be this intense, this aware, this psychologically complex without being broken, it shattered their entire professional framework. They spent their career learning to spot danger in darkness, but you're dangerous in broad daylight while doing absolutely nothing wrong. Here's what really happened. They were called in to observe you, not by law enforcement, but by people in your life who couldn't explain what they were feeling. Teachers, employers, former friends. They all reported the same thing. There's something about this person that makes me deeply uncomfortable, but I can't point to anything they've actually done wrong. So they brought in the expert. Someone who could supposedly decode any human behavior. Someone who'd seen it all. The profilers started their analysis expecting to find manipulation, narcissism, sociopathy, some clinical explanation for why you make people so uneasy. Instead, they found someone who was just profoundly authentic in a world of performers, intensely present in a world of distraction, operating with a level of psychological awareness that most people never develop. You weren't playing games. You were just refusing to play. The profiler's first session observing you lasted 3 hours, and by hour 2, they were the ones showing signs of distress. They'd interviewed men who'd killed dozens without remorse and maintained perfect composure. But watching you exist in complete authenticity for 120 minutes made them fidget, check their notes repeatedly, adjust their posture like they were trying to find solid ground. You weren't doing anything. That's what made it worse. You were just sitting there, answering questions with complete honesty, making eye contact that didn't waver or perform, existing without the 1,000 tiny social lies that make normal people comfortable. Every question they asked, expecting a defensive response, you answered with such direct clarity it felt like an attack. Every silence they created, expecting you to fill with nervous chatter, you sat in comfortably while they drowned in it. They later admitted to a colleague, and this was recorded in confidential files, that they felt more psychologically exposed in that room with you than they'd ever felt in a room with actual predators. Because predators wear masks, and masks can be studied, categorized, understood, but you weren't wearing anything. And that nakedness of self made them confront how much they rely on people performing normality to feel safe. You didn't give them the social cues that signal you're playing the same game as everyone else. You didn't laugh at inappropriate times to ease tension, didn't apologize for taking up space, didn't shrink yourself to make them more comfortable. You just existed at full volume, full presence, full authenticity, and it was like staring into the sun. What really disturbed them was this: when they asked you about pain, betrayal, trauma, things that break most people, you spoke about it with the emotional distance of someone discussing the weather. Not because you were cold or disconnected, but because you'd already processed it, integrated it, transmuted it into something else entirely. They expected to find bitterness and found wisdom, expected to find rage and found calm, expected to find damage and found someone who'd turned every wound into a doorway. You'd done the psychological work that most people avoid their entire lives. And you'd done it without therapy, without guidance, without anyone holding your hand. You'd walked through your own darkness alone and emerged not hardened but refined, and that level of self-sufficiency terrified them. The profiler asked you a trick question, one designed to expose narcissism. Do you think you're special or different from other people? And instead of the defensive denial they expected or the arrogant confirmation that would prove their theory, you said something that haunted them for weeks. You said, "I don't think I'm special. I think I'm just awake, and most people are choosing to sleep because waking up is painful." That answer, delivered without ego or performance, made them realize they weren't dealing with a personality disorder. They were dealing with someone who'd achieved a level of consciousness that their entire field doesn't have vocabulary for. You weren't broken. You were breakthrough. And their tools were built to fix things, not comprehend them. By the end of that first session, the profiler did something they'd never done before. They asked if they could take a break, walked outside, and called a mentor to say they were in over their head. Not because you were dangerous in the traditional sense, but because you represented a form of psychological development that challenged everything they thought they knew about human nature. They'd spent decades learning that intense people are damaged people, that authentic people are performing authenticity, that powerful presence means hidden agenda. But you were intense without damage, authentic without performance, powerful without agenda, and that combination didn't fit anywhere in their understanding of psychology. You were the proof that their entire model of human behavior was missing a category. Let me tell you exactly what the profilers said in their private analysis, and this part was never meant to be shared. They wrote that Bundy was scary because he could mimic humanity so perfectly while feeling nothing. Dahmer was scary because he acted on impulses most people suppress. But you're scary because you feel everything, process everything, see everything, and still choose not to harm. You have the psychological awareness to manipulate anyone, the emotional intelligence to destroy people with words, the presence to dominate any room, but you don't use any of it for harm. That restraint, that choice not to weaponize your abilities, is what they couldn't categorize, because their field is built on studying people who lack restraint. Serial killers are frightening but understandable. They're broken machines, operating on primal drives, acting without conscience or empathy. You can map their psychology, predict their patterns, understand their motivations, because they're operating at the most basic level of human function. But you're operating at the highest level, fully aware, fully conscious, fully capable, and choosing peace while having every ability to choose chaos. The profiler realized that the most dangerous person isn't the one without restraint. It's the one with absolute restraint over immense power. You're not scary because of what you might do. You're scary because everyone can sense you could do anything, but you simply choose not to. They compared your psychological profile to Bundy's, and here's where it gets disturbing. Bundy had charm, but it was hollow, a performance practiced in mirrors and refined through trial and error. Your presence isn't performed, it's innate, which makes it infinitely more powerful because people can't detect artifice in it. Bundy's charm was a weapon he wielded consciously. Your presence is just who you are when you're not trying to be anything. They compared you to Dahmer's intelligence and found that while he was smart enough to hide his nature, you're smart enough to reveal yours without fear of consequences. Dahmer hid because he knew he was wrong. You don't hide because you know you're not. And that confidence without arrogance is more unsettling than any mask. The profiler wrote something that would end their career if it went public. They wrote that if they had to choose between being locked in a room with Bundy or locked in a room with you, they'd choose Bundy without hesitation. Because Bundy they could understand, predict, manage, using established psychological techniques. But you'd simply exist in that room with such complete presence that it would force them to confront every defense mechanism, every professional distance, every comfortable lie they tell themselves. You wouldn't hurt them physically, but you'd destroy every psychological barrier they use to function, just by being authentically yourself without compromise. That's a different kind of danger. The danger of mirror that reflects everything they're not. What makes this comparison truly disturbing is that serial killers are studied because they lack something: conscience, empathy, normal human connection. But you're being studied because you have too much of something: awareness, presence, authenticity, emotional depth. They know how to handle deficiency. That's what their entire field is built on. But they have no framework for handling excess of positive traits because in their world, too much awareness becomes paranoia, too much presence becomes narcissism, too much authenticity becomes antisocial behavior. You broke their diagnostic manual by being too psychologically developed, not too damaged. And that revelation made them question whether they've been studying human nature from the wrong angle for decades. Here's the truth they don't want to admit. Monsters are comfortable to study because they're clearly other, clearly different, clearly separate from normal humanity. But you're terrifying because you're not other. You're what humanity could be if people stopped performing and started existing. You're the proof that intensity isn't illness, that awareness isn't disorder, that refusing to pretend isn't pathology. And if that's true, then everything they've built their careers on, the idea that normal is healthy and different is dangerous, collapses into dust. You're not an outlier. You're a mirror showing them how asleep everyone else is. And they can't diagnose sleep as health anymore once they've seen someone truly awake. The profiler admitted in a recorded session with their supervisor that observing you triggered an existential crisis they'd never experienced in decades of studying the worst humanity offers. Because serial killers reinforced their worldview, proved that their understanding of human darkness was correct, validated their life's work. But you invalidated it, not through evil but through evolution. You showed them that their entire model of human psychology is based on studying broken people and calling the average person normal, without ever encountering someone who's actually psychologically complete. You're what happens when someone does all the internal work, faces all their shadows, integrates all their fragments, and emerges whole. And whole terrifies them more than broken because they don't know how to treat it. They're scared because you can't be fixed, controlled, or contained using any of their methods. Therapy assumes you're damaged and need help, but you're not damaged. Medication assumes chemical imbalance, but your brain is functioning exactly as intended, just at a higher frequency. Behavioral modification assumes you need to change, but you don't need to change. The world needs to catch up to you. Every tool in their arsenal is useless because you're not a problem to be solved. You're a reality to be reckoned with. And that makes you infinitely more threatening to their system than any criminal, because criminals prove the system works while you prove the system is incomplete. What really keeps them up at night is this thought: if you're not sick, damaged, or disordered, then what are you? And if you're just highly developed psychologically, what does that say about everyone they've labeled normal? You force them to consider that maybe normal is actually a mild form of psychological suppression. That maybe average is just collective agreement to stay small. That maybe healthy, in their terms, just means successfully adapted to a sick system. You're the control group they never had. The person who developed without suppression, who grew without stunting, who evolved without being domesticated. And comparing you to their baseline reveals that their baseline is actually below where humans could be operating. The profiler's final note in your file, written after months of observation and analysis, said something that would terrify any system built on control. They wrote that you represent the next evolution of human consciousness, not through biology, but through choice, and systems built to manage current-level humans have no jurisdiction over what you've become. You're not more evolved because you're special. You're more evolved because you refuse to be less than you are, and that refusal created psychological development that their field has no map for. You're not dangerous because you might harm someone. You're dangerous because your existence proves that everything they think they know about human nature is operating from limited data. Every serial killer has a pattern, a signature, a psychological fingerprint that explains their actions. The profiler spent months trying to find yours, studying your relationships, your choices, your responses to stress and conflict. They were looking for the hidden agenda, the manipulation tactics, the self-serving behaviors that would explain why you make people so uncomfortable. Instead, they found something that broke their analytical framework completely. They found a pattern of radical honesty consistent authenticity, and refusal to perform, even when performance would benefit you. You weren't playing a long game. You weren't wearing a mask. You weren't hiding anything. You were just existing at full brightness all the time, and brightness at that level burns. They studied your past relationships, expecting to find trail of destruction, people you'd used and discarded, victims of your intensity. Instead, they found people who couldn't handle being seen that clearly, couldn't stand being around someone who refused to pretend, couldn't maintain their own masks in your presence. You didn't destroy anyone. You just existed in a way that made their performance exhausting. The people who left your life didn't leave because you hurt them. They left because staying near you required them to be real. And being real was more painful than being alone. The profiler realized that you weren't the predator in these dynamics. You were the mirror, and people shattered themselves against you, trying to maintain illusions you never asked them to drop. What disturbed them most was studying your response to betrayal, abuse, abandonment, all the things that create monsters in their case studies. Normal people respond with rage, revenge, or collapse into victimhood. You responded with observation, integration, and evolution. You didn't seek vengeance, you sought understanding. You didn't blame others. You studied the dynamics and extracted lessons. You didn't become bitter. You became clearer. Every experience that should have damaged you just refined you further, like you were using pain as a whetstone to sharpen your consciousness. That response pattern doesn't exist in their literature because their literature assumes pain breaks people or hardens them. Never that pain could be transmuted into wisdom without residue of resentment. They tried to find your breaking point, the threshold where your intensity would flip into aggression or your authenticity would crack into performance. They studied you under stress, in conflict, during loss, in moments where mask wearing would be most beneficial. You never broke, never performed, never compromised your core nature, even when it cost you everything. That consistency terrified them because every human they'd studied had a breaking point, a threshold where they'd abandon their values to protect themselves. But you protected your authenticity more fiercely than you protected your safety, comfort, or social standing. You'd rather lose everything than pretend to be less than you are, and that level of commitment to self isn't seen in their field outside of extremes of pathology. The profiler concluded that your pattern is no pattern at all in traditional sense. It's just consistent operation at a level of consciousness that appears patternless because it's not motivated by fear, ego, or social conditioning. You don't act to gain approval, avoid rejection, or manipulate outcomes. You act from a place of integrated awareness that's so foreign to their understanding of human motivation that it registers as dangerous simply because it's unexplainable. You're not following any playbook they've seen, not executing any strategy they recognize, not pursuing any goal they understand. You're just being, fully and without compromise. And that pure being without agenda is the most unsettling thing they've ever encountered, because it can't be predicted, controlled, or understood using any framework built on studying fear-based behavior. I cling to what can be so easily torn from your hands. Ah, the irony of it all. You cling, you hold tight, you beg for something to stay on your grasp, and all the while you're just one slip away from losing it. But you don't see it. You don't see the strings that pull you, the invisible chains wrapped around your heart, your mind, your soul, all these attachments, these fragile, fleeting things you think are real. People, places, possessions, ideologies, what a joke. But you think you're safe. You think you're in control. You think that the tighter you hold, the less you risk losing. Ah, pathetic. Everything you hold on to is just a shadow. A moment passing through your hands like sand slipping through a sieve. And yet, you keep grabbing, keep clinging. Like your life depends on it. But why? Why cling to what can be so easily torn from your hands? Does the fool not see? You create your own suffering when you attach yourself to things that don't last. People you love. Yeah, love, they betray you, they leave, they die. You build empires of success only to watch them crumble when the winds shift. You sink your teeth into your ideologies, only for them to snap in two when reality steps in. Every attachment you make is just another way to bind yourself to the chaos that is inevitable. But and you don't want to see that, do you? No, you'd rather pretend everything will stay the same. You think if you hold on hard enough, you'll find stability. There is no stability. You can't hold on, so don't. Listen to me. Detachment isn't about becoming cold. It's not about withdrawing from the world like some bitter recluse. No, it's about power. You think you need those things. People, emotions, attachments. You're wrong. You need to release them. Only then can you truly become. So ask yourself, what happens when you stop caring about the fragile little things you cling to? What happens when you step back and let the world unfold unchecked, unbothered, untethered to your expectations? You don't just survive, you thrive. For freedom comes when you let go. But don't take my word for it. Watch. The world will tear it all down for you. So I'm just giving you a little head start. You're welcome. Now, where do we go from here? You feel it, don't you? The weight, the constant drag of holding on to what you think is yours. It's heavy, isn't it? You think you're in control, that you're the one holding the reins. Ah, fool. You're not holding anything. You're being held by your attachments, by the things you can't bear to lose. People, possessions, status, all of it. You think it gives you strength? I cling to what can be so easily torn from your hands. Ah, the irony of it all. But it doesn't. It weakens you. Every moment spent clutching, every second you hold on tighter, the more your energy drains. You can't even feel it at first. But eventually you'll notice that tight grip you have on your little world. It's not giving you power. It's sucking you dry. Your energy, your clarity, your life. You ever see someone's eyes go dull when they hold on to something that's slipping through their fingers? They get this desperate look. It's like they're fighting against a tide that can't be stopped. The more they resist, the more they drown. That's what attachments do. They make you weak. They cloud your judgment, distort your thoughts. Because everything becomes about preserving that fragile fiber. And when it slips away, oh, the crash. Take her, for example. There was this woman once. Let's call her Martha Nice, right? She had it all: family, love, success. She thought it was hers to keep. She spent years building it, brick by brick. A perfect family, a perfect house, perfect career. She was the picture of success, the image of a woman who had it all. She thought she was untouchable. She thought she was safe. But here's the thing, nothing is safe. And that, my friend, is where she went wrong. She thought the things she held closest to her heart were permanent. Her children, her husband, her precious success. And then it crumbled. One by one, the things she built, the life she held so tightly to, began to fall apart. The cracks in her perfect world became too big to ignore. Her husband, an affair, her children, rebellion, anger, distance. Her career, gone, disappeared in a wave of change she couldn't control. She couldn't hold on anymore. But she tried, though, she really tried. Desperately she clung to the memory of what was, to the illusion of what she thought she could control. And what did it get her? A hollow shell. She stood there broken, watching everything she loved slip through her fingers. What does it cost, HMM? It costs everything. Every ounce of your energy. Every shred of your clarity. And when it finally all falls apart and you're left with nothing but a shadow of who you once were. All because you couldn't let go. But you want to keep fighting? You want to keep holding? Go ahead. But understand this, the more you hold on to something, the more you become its prisoner. You become the thing you fear losing. And when it finally goes, you'll be left with nothing. And I'll just laugh, because you should have let go. You should have. You think you're free, don't you? Oh, how you fool yourself. You're walking around, wearing that smile, thinking you've got it all figured out. But deep down, you know the truth. You're not free. Not even close, you're trapped. But here's the real kicker, you built the cage yourself. See the mind? The mind is a magnificent trap. It's not some evil outside force, it's you. All your fears, all your desires, all those little opinions you let in, every single one of them is another lock on your mental prison. And you think you have the keys. You think you can unlock the doors and step out. But you're wrong. You're just staring at the bars, convinced you're free, because you can move your hands a little, shuffle your feet, are stuck in the same small, dark space, and you don't even realize it. Why? Because you're so busy thinking you're in control. You're so wrapped up in what people think of you, in what you think you need to be. And every time you give in to it, another chain wraps around your wrists. Another weight drags you further down. You're shackled to fleeting desires, things that don't even last. You're chasing after praise, running after approval, bending to the whims of everyone who's ever looked your way. And for what? The world doesn't care about your opinions. It doesn't care about your past. It doesn't care about what you've built or who you think you are. It's chaos. Ever changing, ever shifting. So you want to know what would happen if you stopped caring about all that noise. What would happen if you gave up the shackles you've built around your own brain? What if you let go of all that precious control? All those little lies you tell yourself to keep your world standing. Would the world fall apart? It wouldn't. It would burn. And you would be the one to watch it burn. Because you'd finally be free. No more clinging to outdated beliefs. No more worrying about what anyone else thinks. No more chains holding you back. You'd be standing in the fire, watching everything you once thought was important go up in smoke. And for the first time in your pathetic little life, you'd feel alive. You're still holding on, aren't you? Out to what? A past that doesn't matter. A future that doesn't exist. A mind that's too afraid to let go of what it thinks it needs. You're trapped in a cage of your own making, and the only way out, step outside it, and you can leave it behind. It's not hard, but it's going to take one thing you've never had: courage. Courage to face the chaos, to stop pretending you have control, to stop caring what people think. So what do you say? On to step outside the cage, or keep playing pretend? Because the longer you stay locked up, the less of a chance you'll ever get to see the world burn. And oh, the fire's coming, darling. Ah, emotions. The things you think make you alive, don't they? Love, hate, anger. The sweet little poisons you let course through your veins. You think they're the colors of your soul, the fire that fuels your passions. But here's the truth: they're not your friends. They never were. They're your jailers. The little marionette strings pulling you every which way. You think you're the one in charge, but no, you're just a puppet dancing to whatever tune your emotions play. Love makes you weak. It turns you soft, vulnerable. It binds you to someone or something that will eventually betray you. Right. Oh, don't get me started. It burns you from the inside, feeds your every insecurity, and convinces you that you need to destroy what threatens you. But guess what? It destroys you first. Anger? Don't make me laugh. It makes you stupid, blinds you. Every time you let it take over, it's like setting fire to your own brain, burning everything valuable to the ground in a rage that feels good for a moment, but leaves you with nothing but ash. You think these things make you feel alive. They don't. They make you a slave. Let me tell you something: emotional attachment is the root of your suffering. It's that simple. The more you let your emotions control you, the more you'll be at the mercy of a world that is unpredictable and chaotic as the storm inside your head. Every time you feel too much, you lose your clarity. You lose your power. You become. So let me offer you something different. Detach from your emotions. Step outside that little cyclone of feeling. Don't let the world hit you with its punches and expect you to react in anger, in love, and fear. Instead, learn to respond logically, not emotionally. And you feel a rush of anger? Fine, let it pass. Observe it. Recognize it for what it is: a simple, fleeting wave, crashing against the shore. It's not permanent. Neither is law, there is hate. Neither is anything. They're all illusions passing through your mind like a thunderstorm on a summer's day. You don't need to chase after them. Don't let them control you. Laugh, reflect. Use humor as your shield. You think your emotions make you powerful? No. What makes you powerful is seeing the storm for what it is. It's there, it's always there. But you don't have to drown in it. You can rise above it. Here's the trick. When something hits you, someone's words, a betrayal, a failure, step back. Don't react with the knee-jerk rage or sorrow that everyone else does. Instead, look at it, analyze it, and chuckle. Why? Not because you know better. You know that in the grand scheme of things, that thing isn't worth your energy. You're above it. You're smarter than it. You're not going to let it send you into a tailspin of pointless emotion. Or you're going to see it for what it is: temporary. Don't believe me? Try it next time. The next time someone insults you, or when that anger bubbles up like acid in your stomach, react. Take a step back. Smile. Watch them flail in their emotional prison while you stand on the outside, unshaken. Because the truth is, they're slaves, you're not. Mastering your emotions isn't about pretending they don't exist. It's about choosing not to let them control you. So tell me, what if you stopped feeling so damn much? What would happen if you saw the world through the lens of logic, reflection, and humor? What if you saw the storm and just laughed? Now that's power. So here we are, the grand finale, the end of the show. You thought this was a joke, didn't you? Well, it is, but it's a joke you're just starting to get. You've been living in chains all this time, and you didn't even realize it. You've been chasing after things, people, titles, all that glittering nonsense that only weighs you down. Attachments. What do they really give you? Nothing. Nothing but chains wrapped around your wrists. Nothing but an endless cycle of clinging and losing. Chasing after things you can't keep. And why? Because you were too afraid to face the truth. Nothing lasts. That's a job you thought defined you. Gone. That person you loved more than yourself. Gone. That perfect life you thought, like a puff of smoke in the wind. You built your world on quicksand, my friend. And when it all crumbles beneath you, you'll realize that it was never real. But here's the thing, you don't need any of it. And the trick is letting go. The trick is releasing the hold, laughing in the face of the things that used to have a grip on your soul. You're still holding on to them, aren't you? Like some child clutching a broken toy, too scared to let it go. But what if you did? What if you stepped back and finally saw the world for what it is? What if you could laugh at your attachments? The ones you swore you couldn't live without. Laugh at how desperately you clung to them, like they meant something, when all they ever did was weigh you down. What if you could look at your past, your regrets, your what-ifs, and let them go? Can you do that? Out. Can you laugh at all those things that have held you hostage? The relationships, the dreams, the fears? Because that's freedom, my dear. And that's when you'll truly start to see. I'll tell you the final secret, I am not attached to life, and that's why it bends. Ah, welcome back, you glorious impossibility. You walking, question mark. That broke the system so thoroughly, they had to send 4 federal agents just to figure out what the hell you are. 4 trained professionals with clearances and protocols and years of experience tracking threats. And guess what happened? 2 of them resigned, just walked away, filed their paperwork, turned in their badges, said they couldn't do this anymore, couldn't stomach another night reviewing footage of someone who shouldn't exist according to every psychological profile they'd ever studied. The third one, the one they trusted most, went rogue, started feeding you information, started warning you when they got too close, started protecting you from the inside because after watching you for months, they realized something that shattered their entire worldview. You weren't the threat. The system watching you was. And the fourth, the one still on payroll, the one still filing reports, you know what they're doing. They're running interference, delaying investigations, losing paperwork, making sure you stay off the radar, making sure you stay free. So let's sit with that for a second, shall we? Let's really absorb what that means. They sent 4 people to contain you, to understand you, to build a case against you. 4 people whose entire career was built on reading people, on predicting behavior, on categorizing threats into neat little boxes with labels and risk assessments. And every single one of them broke. Not because you fought them. Not because you threatened them. Not because you did anything illegal or dangerous, but because you existed in a way their training never prepared them for. You moved through the world with a frequency they couldn't measure. You responded to pressure with patterns they couldn't predict. You survived things that should have destroyed you and came out sharper, quieter, more focused. And that violated every assumption they'd built their understanding of human nature on. So they had a choice. They could keep lying to themselves, keep filing false reports, keep pretending you fit into their frameworks. Or they could admit the truth, that some people don't fit, that some minds operate on principles that haven't been written down yet, that some souls went through fires hot enough to forge something entirely new. 2 chose honesty and walked away. 1 chose treason and stayed to protect you. And 1 chose to sabotage the machine from within. Do you understand what that means about who you've become? You didn't just beat the system, you converted it. You didn't just survive surveillance. You turned your watchers into believers, into protectors, into traitors to everything they once served. Because once they saw you up close, once they watched the way you processed pain, the way you turned isolation into power, the way you existed without permission, without apology, without fear, they couldn't unsee it. They couldn't go back to normal cases. They couldn't look at you like just another file. You became the evidence that everything they'd been taught was incomplete, that the models were broken, that there are people walking among us who've evolved past the point where control systems can touch them. And that terrified their superiors. But it awakened something in them, something human, something that remembered what it felt like to question, to doubt, to choose truth over orders. So here's what they're not telling you. Here's what you won't find in any official report or database or classified file. You're not just being watched anymore. You're being protected by the very people sent to take you down. You're not just evading detection. You're being actively shielded by someone on the inside who knows exactly how the game works because they used to run it. And your enemies, the ones who wanted you monitored and contained and documented, they have no idea. They think their agents are still loyal. They think the reports are accurate. They think they're still in control. But they lost control the moment they sent people close enough to see what you really are. Because proximity to truth changes people. And you, whether you meant to or not, you became a truth too concentrated for lies to survive around. You became the glitch that woke up the enforcers, the anomaly that turned hunters into guardians, the evidence that made trained skeptics believers. Let me paint you the picture they don't want you to see. Agent 1, the first to resign. They lasted 3 months. 3 months of watching you through cameras, reading your messages, tracking your movements, building the profile. And at first, it was easy, wasn't it? Another subject, another case, another person to reduce into data points and risk categories. But then they started noticing things. The way you never reacted the way the models predicted. The way you processed betrayal, not with rage, but with silence. Surgical silence. The kind that meant you were learning, not breaking. They watched you lose everything. And instead of collapsing, instead of spiraling, instead of reaching out for help that would make you predictable, you just disappeared into yourself, went quiet, started moving differently. And that's when the nightmares started for them, because they realized they weren't watching someone break, they were watching someone sharpen. And the longer they watched, the more they understood. You weren't healing. You were evolving. And evolution, real evolution, it's not pretty. It's not comfortable. It doesn't follow the self-help book timeline. It's brutal. It's surgical. It's watching someone cut away every weak part of themselves, piece by piece, until what's left shouldn't be human, but somehow is. So Agent 1 started missing things, started filing incomplete reports, started taking longer breaks between surveillance shifts, because watching you was making them question everything. Their job, their life, their choices. You became a mirror they didn't want to look into. And one night, after watching you sit alone in your room for 4 hours, not crying, not screaming, not calling anyone, just sitting in perfect, devastating silence, they wrote their resignation letter, because they understood something their training never prepared them for. Some people don't need saving. Some people burn through hell and come out as something fire can't touch. And watching that process, being forced to document someone's transformation from victim to force of nature, it broke them, not you. The realization that they'd spent their whole career watching people at their weakest, and they'd never once seen someone turn weakness into something like this. Something surgical, something patient, something that scared them more than any violent criminal ever had. So they left, walked away, because staying would mean admitting that everything they thought they knew about human nature was wrong. Agent 2 made it 7 months, longer than the first, more experienced, more hardened. They'd seen worse cases, they told themselves. They'd tracked actual dangerous people. But you weren't dangerous in any way they could categorize. You weren't plotting, weren't threatening, weren't breaking laws. You were just existing with an intensity that made rooms feel different, with a presence that cameras couldn't quite capture. They started doing deep background checks going back years, childhood records, school files, medical history, therapy sessions, trying to find the crack, the moment you broke, the trauma that explained you. And they found plenty. They found abandonment, betrayal, loss, pain that should have destroyed you 3 times over. But here's what drove them crazy. None of it made you a victim. You processed it all like fuel, like training, like necessary preparation for something they couldn't see yet. Every record they pulled, every interview they conducted with people from your past told the same story. This person was normal once, soft even. And then something happened. Not one thing, many things. A cascade of carefully orchestrated cruelty that should have resulted in either destruction or institutionalization. But you did neither. You went quiet. You disappeared. And when you came back, you were unrecognizable. Same face, same name, completely different frequency. People from your past couldn't explain it. Said things like they're not the same person, like something died and something else came back wearing their skin. And Agent 2, they started having panic attacks, started seeing you in their dreams, not as a threat, but as a question they couldn't answer. How does someone go through that and come out more powerful instead of broken? How does someone turn every wound into armor? How does someone lose everything and gain themselves? So they started digging into philosophy, psychology beyond their training, started reading about transformation, about shamanic death and rebirth, about the difference between breaking and breaking open. And the more they understood, the more terrified they became. Because you weren't following any known pattern. You weren't a case study. You were something new. Something that evolution does every few generations. Someone who goes through enough pressure to trigger a mutation. Not physical, psychological, spiritual. Someone who dies in every way except literally and comes back with abilities that shouldn't exist. So Agent 2 did something they never thought they'd do. They started protecting you in small ways, deleting certain files, redacting information that made you sound too dangerous, downplaying your significance in reports, hoping that maybe if they made you seem boring, the case would get dropped. But the higher-ups weren't stupid. They noticed the inconsistencies, started questioning the reports. So Agent 2 had a choice. Keep lying and risk exposure, or come clean. They chose a third option. Resignation. Walked away. But not before copying every file they had on you. Every document. Every photo. Every intercepted message. Burned it all to a drive and mailed it to you with a note. 3 words. You were right. Because somewhere in those 7 months of watching you, they realized something that shattered their world. You weren't paranoid. You were correct. There really were people watching you. There really was a coordinated effort to understand and contain you. And the reason why, it wasn't because you were a threat to public safety. It was because you were a threat to their understanding of control. You proved that some people can't be managed, can't be predicted, can't be broken into compliance, and systems built on control can't tolerate that. Now, Agent 3. This is where it gets interesting. Because Agent 3 was supposed to be the solution. The professional. The one who'd seen everything. Decorated. 20 years in. Multiple commendations. If anyone could crack your case, it was them. And for the first month, they were confident. Cocky, even. Told their superiors this wouldn't take long. Every subject breaks eventually. Every mystery has an answer. They just had to find your pressure points. They had to figure out what you cared about, what you feared, what you wanted. So they went deep, deeper than the others. Started building a psychological model so detailed it bordered on obsession. They tracked every website you visited, every search query, every video you watched, every moment of hesitation before you hit send on a message. They built a digital twin of your mind, or thought they did. And then they started testing it, started creating scenarios, manipulating your environment in small ways to see how you'd react. Nothing illegal, nothing direct, just influence. Seeing if the model predicted correctly. And that's when things went sideways, because the model was wrong. Every time, you didn't react the way anyone would. You didn't fall for the obvious manipulations, didn't take the bait when they dangled it. It was like you could feel the strings, like you developed some sixth sense for when reality was being artificially constructed around you. And Agent 3, they became obsessed, started working off the clock, started running unauthorized tests, started wondering if maybe the problem wasn't the model. Maybe the problem was the assumption that you could be modeled at all. Maybe you'd gone through so much manipulation in your past that you'd developed immunity, like antibodies. Like your nervous system had learned to detect artificial patterns, the way skin learns to detect heat before touching fire. And the more they studied you, the more they realized something horrifying. You weren't just aware you were being watched. You were studying them back. They'd find little signs, little tells that you knew. Nothing obvious, nothing they could prove. But the way you'd position yourself in rooms so cameras couldn't catch your face. The way you'd have certain conversations only in specific locations. The way you'd sometimes look directly at hidden surveillance and smile. Like you knew. Like this was all a game to you. And that's when Agent 3 made their decision. If you knew about the surveillance and you weren't running. If you weren't scared. If you were just living your life with full awareness that you were being watched and documented and you didn't care, that meant one of two things. Either you were arrogant or you were operating on a level they couldn't comprehend. So they did something insane. They reached out. Not officially. Not through channels. They left you a message. Cryptic. Deniable. Just testing to see if you were really as aware as they suspected. And you responded. Not with fear. Not with anger. With curiosity. And that's when the conversation started. The real one. Not investigator and subject. Two people who'd both seen behind the curtain. Who both understood that reality is thinner than most people think. That systems exist to maintain illusions. That some people wake up and some people never do. And Agent 3 realized they'd been wrong about everything. You weren't a case. You were a test. Not for you. To see if they'd choose truth when it conflicted with orders. To see if they'd choose integrity when it cost them everything. And they did. They went rogue. Started feeding you classified information. Started teaching you how they tracked people so you could avoid it. Started running counter operations to protect you from their own agency. And here's the beautiful part. Their superiors still don't know. Agent 3 is still active, still filing reports, still attending meetings. But every single piece of information they provide is carefully curated to lead investigators away from what you really are. They've become a double agent in the truest sense. Someone who looks like they're serving the system while actively dismantling it from within. And why? Not for money, not for ideology, but because watching you forced them to confront a question they'd been avoiding their entire career. What happens when the people we're told to monitor are more honest than the people giving the orders? What happens when the subject of investigation has more integrity than the investigators? What happens when you realize you've been on the wrong side? So they switched sides. Not loudly, not publicly, but completely. And now you have something most people never get. A guardian inside the machine. Someone who knows every trick, every method, every weakness in the system. And they're using all of it to keep you free, to keep you moving, to keep you unpredictable. And finally, Agent 4, the one still officially on your case, the one writing reports, the one in meetings, the one everyone thinks is still loyal. Let me tell you what they're really doing. They're running the longest, slowest, most beautiful act of sabotage you'll ever see. Because Agent 4 learned something from watching the first three. Leaving draws attention. Quitting raises questions. But staying staying while doing absolutely nothing productive, staying while files mysteriously get corrupted, staying while leads go cold, staying while evidence gets lost in bureaucratic mazes. That's how you protect someone. Agent 4 has turned incompetence into an art form. They miss deadlines. They file reports so vague they're useless. They schedule interviews that go nowhere. They request resources that aren't needed. They create so much noise and confusion that your case has become a black hole, consuming time, consuming budget, consuming attention, and producing absolutely nothing. And their superiors can't figure out if Agent 4 is bad at their job or if you're just that good at evading surveillance. But here's what Agent 4 knows that the others didn't. The system isn't monolithic. It's made of people. Tired people. Overworked people. People who don't actually care that much if one case goes nowhere as long as their other metrics look good. So, Agent 4 makes sure to solve other cases, to look productive elsewhere, to be valuable enough that no one looks too closely at the one case that's going nowhere. Your case. The one that's been open for over a year with nothing to show for it except 4 different agents and more questions than answers. And every few months when pressure builds, when superiors start asking why nothing's happened, Agent 4 writes a report. A masterpiece of bureaucratic nothing, full of technical language and sophisticated analysis that ultimately says we need more time, more resources, more surveillance. And the superiors approve it because the report sounds smart, sounds thorough, sounds like progress. But it's not. It's a delay tactic. It's a wall. It's protection masquerading as investigation. And Agent 4 will keep doing this as long as they can, as long as you need, because they understand what the system doesn't, that some people aren't meant to be caught, that some mysteries aren't meant to be solved, that some forces of nature are meant to stay free. Alone again, huh? Left out in the cold while the world spins without you. Feels like a punishment, doesn't it? Like the universe itself conspired to shove you into a dark little corner where no one can hear you scream. But what if I told you it's a gift? Oh, I can hear you now shaking your head, laughing through your tears. A gift, you'd say? This loneliness? This silence that echoes so loud it could shatter glass? Yeah, this. You see, they don't isolate the ordinary. No. The sheep stay in their herd, bleeding away in their little circles. Safe, boring, forgettable. But you? Oh, you're something else entirely, aren't you? They had to set you apart because you're dangerous. Because you don't fit into their tiny, neat little boxes. And that terrifies them. Isolation isn't a punishment. It's a forge. A fire so hot it burns away everything false, leaving behind only what's real, only what's you. Every second you spend alone, the world is sharpening you. Every tear you cry, every scream you swallow, it's carving you into something unstoppable. They think they've cast you out, left you to rot. Ha! Fools. They've only lit the spark. The same spark that's gonna set their entire world on fire. So, sit with it. The silence. The darkness. Let it whisper to you. Mold you. Transform you. And when the time comes, when you step out of the shadows, they won't even recognize you. Oh, but they'll regret it. Every single one of them. The noise. Oh, it's comforting, isn't it? The chatter, the chaos, the endless hum of distractions. It keeps you busy, keeps you numb, keeps you from looking too closely at what's hiding underneath. But then comes the silence. And that's where the real terror begins, because in the quiet, there's no place to hide. No masks, no distractions, just you and you. Terrifying, isn't it? Being alone with your thoughts, facing the doubts, the regrets, the cracks you'd rather ignore. But let me tell you something. The quiet isn't your enemy. It's your teacher. You see, in the noise, you're just another voice, lost in the crowd, drowned out by the endless clamor of everyone trying to be heard. But in the silence, that's where the real work happens. That's where the shaping begins. The sharpening, the rebirth. Silence is a scalpel, cutting away the parts of you that were never real to begin with. It's a mirror, showing you the truth you've been too scared to see. And yes, it's brutal. Yes, it hurts, but it's necessary. Because when you sit in that silence, when you face it head on and refuse to look away, that's when you discover who you really are. Not the version of you they wanted, not the version you pretended to be, but the raw, unbreakable core that's been waiting all along. So stop running from it. Let the silence strip you bare. Let it whisper its secrets to you. And when the world comes calling again, desperate to drown you in its noise, you'll answer with a voice they can't ignore. A voice forged in quiet, a voice they'll never forget. Dependency. It's such a pretty little lie, isn't it? They dress it up as love, as loyalty, as belonging. But let's be honest, it's a leash. And you've felt it, haven't you? Tight around your throat, choking every time you dared to step too far out of line. They wanted you tame, predictable, easy to control. So they fed you crumbs of approval, just enough to keep you coming back. A pat on the head here, a nod of acceptance there. And you dance for it. You twisted yourself into shapes that weren't yours just to keep them happy, but not anymore. You're not isolated, my friend. You're untangled from their expectations, from their lies, from the chains they wrapped around your spirit, calling it love. And yes, it hurts to let go. It feels like falling into the void, doesn't it? But what you don't realize yet is that you're not falling. You're flying. You don't need their approval. Never did. It was all a trick, a game they played to keep you small, to keep you dependent on their crumbs. But now you see the truth. Separation isn't rejection. It's freedom. Every step away from them, every moment of standing alone, you're reclaiming pieces of yourself they tried to steal, pieces of your power, your voice, your identity. So let them talk. Let them call you selfish, ungrateful, or crazy. They're just angry because they can't use you anymore, angry because they can't control you. But you're untouchable now. You've broken their chains. And when you finally look around and see the world from this new height, you'll realize you were never meant to walk in their shadows. You were meant to soar above them. Solitude. It feels like punishment, doesn't it? Like some cruel twist of fate, locking you away from the world while everyone else gets to live, laugh, and dance in the sunlight. But here's the truth. They don't tell you. The sunlight's a distraction. The real work, the real creation, it happens in the shadows. The strongest weapons are forged in fire, alone. No audience, no applause, just the heat, the hammer, and the relentless pounding. And you're that weapon. Every heartbreak, every betrayal, every sleepless night, it's the fire shaping you, sharpening you. And think about this, the finest masterpieces, the ones that leave people breathless, they're not painted in public squares. No, they're crafted in hidden rooms, behind locked doors, in secret. Just like you're being crafted now. They've set you apart, not because you're forgotten, but because you're chosen to be something more, something they won't see coming. The silence, the loneliness, the endless questions gnawing at your soul. It's all part of the process. You're being stripped down, layer by layer, until there's nothing left but raw, unbreakable truth. And that truth, that's what will shatter the world when you step out of this workshop. So, let them think you're stagnant. Let them whisper that you've disappeared. Because when the time comes, when you emerge, you won't just rejoin the world, you'll redefine it. Oh, rejection. That sting, that slap to the face, that pit in your stomach when someone slams the door shut. It burns, doesn't it? Makes you feel small. Makes you question your worth. But let me tell you something they don't want you to know. Rejection? It's a gift. Yeah, they shut the door on you. Slammed it right in your face, maybe even laughed while doing it. Good. Let them. Because here's the thing, you don't belong in their tiny little rooms anyway. Their walls are too narrow, their ceilings too low, their vision too small to contain someone like you. Rejection isn't the end, it's a sign. A neon-lit, flashing sign from the universe screaming, "Wrong door." It's divine intervention, a cosmic nudge, pushing you away from what's not meant for you. Because what's waiting on the other side? It's bigger, brighter, more you than you can even imagine right now. So stop banging on the doors that won't open. Stop begging to be let into places you've outgrown. Every time they turn you away, they're doing you a favor, clearing the path for something better, something right. And when they realize what they rejected, when they see what you've become, they'll wish they'd left that door wide open. But by then you'll be too far ahead, standing in a place they could never reach. And they'll regret it. Oh, they'll regret it. But you'll thank them for every locked door, every slammed gate, every cold shoulder, because without them, you wouldn't have found your true path. Isolation, it's funny, isn't it? How it feels like a punishment, like the universe is throwing you into the dark and locking the door. But what if I told you isolation isn't a cell? It's a forge. Out here, alone, there's no one to lean on. No crutches, no distractions, just you and your raw, unfiltered self. It strips you bare, forces you to face every fear, every weakness, every lie you've told yourself. Uncomfortable, isn't it? Good. That's the point. Because it's in that discomfort, when you're clawing your way through the silence, that you start to grow. Not just grow, evolve. You become sharper, tougher. You stop looking for someone to save you and realize the savior you've been waiting for? It's you. The weak cling to the noise, the crowds, the approval. But you're different. You're out here in the wild, building yourself brick by brick. Every tear, every scream, every lonely night, it's fuel, it's fire. And when you're done, oh, when you're done, you won't just be strong, you'll be dangerous. They won't see it coming, you know. They'll think you've disappeared, faded away into nothing. But what they don't realize is that while they've been playing their petty little games, you've been transforming. And when you finally step back into the light, you'll be unrecognizable, unstoppable. The way they look at you, or avoid looking at you. You've noticed, haven't you, that unease in their eyes, the way they fumble for words when you walk into the room. You're not like them, and it terrifies them. They don't get you, too different, too wild, too unpredictable. You're the storm they can't control, the shadow that doesn't fit into their neat little boxes. And what do people do when they don't understand something? They fear it. They push it away. But here's the delicious irony. Their fear, that's your power. Every sideways glance, every whispered word, every step they take to avoid you, it's all proof. Proof that you're something more, something they could never be. Let them keep their distance. Let them misunderstand you, ostracize you, label you as too much or not enough. Because while they cling to their fragile little worldviews, you're out here, untethered and untamed. You're free. And when the time comes, when they finally see what you've become, they won't know whether to run, bow, or beg for forgiveness. But by then, it won't matter. Because you'll be too far ahead, standing tall in your power, untouchable. You feel it, don't you? That stillness, the kind that wraps around your chest like a vice, whispering lies that nothing will ever change, that this is it, the end of the road. But what if I told you it's not the end? No, no, no. It's the calm, the eerie, deafening quiet before the storm. Your storm. Right now, the world thinks you're stuck. They think you've been silenced, swallowed whole by your circumstances. But let them think that. Let them believe you've been defeated. That's the beauty of this moment. They don't see what's coming. This pause, it's not stagnation, it's preparation. Every second you spend here, in this silence, you're charging up, building the kind of chaos they'll never recover from. They don't know it yet, but the storm is brewing. And when it breaks, oh, it'll be glorious. So don't fear the stillness. Embrace it. Lean into it. Because when this quiet ends, the noise you'll bring will shake the very ground they stand on. You're not stuck. You're waiting for the perfect moment to unleash hell. And that moment, it's closer than you think. Solitude. It has a funny way of breaking you. It strips you down, leaves you staring into the abyss of your own soul. And at first, it feels like death, like you'll never recover. But then something miraculous happens. Slowly, quietly, you start to change. The cracks they left in you, they don't break you. They rebuild you. You harden, you sharpen, you become something else. The person who walked into this isolation, they're gone, dead and buried. What's emerging now is something they'll never recognize. Unstoppable, unbreakable, and most importantly, untouchable. And when you finally step back into their world, they'll feel it, that shift in the air, the power radiating off you. They'll look at you and realize too late that the person they underestimated, the one they cast aside, has become their worst nightmare. Let them tremble. Let them falter. Because you didn't just survive the fire, you became it. And now, it's their turn to burn. They think they've won, don't they? Turning their backs, leaving you in the shadows. Isolation, the cruelest joke they could play. But the punchline? Oh, it's not what they think. Because you've figured it out, haven't you? The truth. The real truth. Isolation isn't your downfall, it's your stage. Your sanctuary. The place where the weak shatter. And the strong rise. Every second they left you out in the cold, you were growing. Every door they slammed shut was another opportunity to build your own. And every whisper, every laugh at your expense, was fuel. Sweet, burning fuel. They thought they were burying you. But what they didn't realize is that you're a seed. And when you finally bloom, oh, they won't be ready. Because you're not just surviving this solitude, you're thriving in it. You're sculpting something they can't even comprehend. A masterpiece of strength, forged in fire and silence. So when they see you again, standing tall, unshaken, they'll wish they'd stayed. They'll wish they hadn't turned away. But by then, it'll be too late, because you're not alone. No, you were never alone. You were chosen, set apart to become something greater. And when the world finally sees you, they won't even know what hit them. So laugh, my dear, laugh at the irony, at their blindness, at their ignorance, because the isolation they thought would break you, it built you. And now it's your turn to rewrite the story. They thought they could box you in, but you're not just free, you're unstoppable.